podcast. We're coming a little bit later in the week to you for this one. My mate Jarrod McMaugh is going to be joining me for the second half of this podcast, where we will be kind of breaking down the first half of the season for Alien Earth, and then we will also kind of be digging into the lore and the mythology and just the general world of Alien. So we'll chat about this latest episode, Observation, episode 4 first, and then I'll bring Jarrod in so we can have a chat with him as well. Before we get into it, a little bit of housekeeping. Brisbane, yes. Brisbane, I am going to be performing in your city in December. I'm doing my first solo show in, God, a long time actually. I was having a look. I think it is. It's about a decade, basically. Yeah. So I'm really looking forward to it. I'm going to be at Good Chat on the 4th of December, which is a Thursday night, and I will be performing a new show, Gen X Marks the Spot. So I'd love you to come along. I haven't been to Brisbane as a solo act for quite a while, and so it'd be interesting to see how many people up there would like to come along. For September, September is my birthday month. So my birthday present to you is that for all of September, there is a discount on tickets. So if you would like to get in early and save some money, you can save some coin on individual tickets, and you can also save them on group bookings as well. So if you would like more information on that, why don't you head to my website, justinhamilton.com.au/gigs, or if you can't remember that, just go to justinhamilton.com.au. You will find it in the gigs section. That will take you to the Good Chat site, and you'll be able to purchase tickets for that. Earlier than that, on the 19th of September, Adelaide Comedy is celebrating 25 years, and I've been helping out with some of those celebrations, and I will be there on the 19th of September with Mickey D and Truckers for Christ. Yes, it's a big comedy variety night where Mickey and I will be doing some stand-up. Then I'll be recording a live podcast with Mickey and also the lead singer of Truckers for Christ, Charlie Hill-Smith, who was back in the 90s, a bit of an Adelaide comedy legend. He was the host of my very first gig. Yeah, so he'll be joining us for the podcast, and then Truckers for Christ will be playing. So head to adelaidecomedy.com for tickets to that. And remember, all my Patreon subscribers, DM me on Patreon, because as a subscriber, you get tickets on the door. So just make sure that you DM me so I can add you to the list. That's for Adelaide, and that is for Brisbane as well. One last thing, we have a sponsor. Yes, Wonder Pies. You may have heard me talking about Wonder Pies. My mate Ray Capaldi, who is the creator of these delicious snacks, he contacted me and asked about sponsoring the podcast, and I was like, absolutely, because they are delicious. Like, it would have been tough if someone had come to me and said, hey, we want to throw some money your way, and you go, great, and then they say, it's this roast chicken. We make roast chicken. I'd be like, I don't eat roast chicken. I like the money. I don't eat chicken. I don't know what to do. But with Wonder Pies, they are absolutely delicious. I'd already told them how much I loved them when I finally got an opportunity to try them. Just perfect blend of thickness of the pastry with the right amount of filling. And there's a broad range. I know a lot of you are carnivores, so don't worry, you'll find there's a broad range of pies and pasties, and there's cakes and all sorts of things that you can buy there. And then if you're vegetarian like me, or maybe if you're vegan, there are also options. Their vegan beef pie is pretty outstanding. The When I tried it, the woman said to me, "I just need to warn you that vegetarians and vegans always bring it back and say we've given you the wrong pie." And I went, "No, okay, no worries." And then I took a bite out of it. I was like, "Oh God, thank God that that she warned me, because I 100% would have taken it up and said, 'This is me.'" But it was great. So they have all of their cafes are in Victoria. But if you would like to order some and have them shipped to you, you can go to wonderpies.com and you can find all of their delicious treats there. Let me just check something. Am I leaving out a uh, look? As you can see, I refuse to do a um, a reading because they always sound false, don't they? So that's why you'll have little mistakes like this. It's wonderpies.com.au. Yes, I thought I was leaving out the AU for a moment. Wonderpies.com.au, and you can buy like boxes of them. You can buy big apple pies. You can buy pastries, cakes, all sorts of things, and it is all delicious. Ray Capaldi, what a genius. Okay, let's go from delicious treats to ocular aliens embedding themselves into the face of a sheep. Wow, that was something, wasn't it? Maybe we'll save that bit for the end. This was, I think, overall a slower episode. It wasn't as exciting as previous episodes that we've watched. But in the grand scheme of a series, I'm fine with that. So while I might not have been as excited, it felt like we needed to take a bit of a breather and put all of our players in position for the rest of the story. And for that, I quite enjoyed that. There were lots of little things that I wanted to go through with you. You know, it was, I thought it was an interesting way to start the episode, actually, with the Wendy's hearing gone, and while they ran the diagnostics, and her just being incapable of hearing it. They're interesting bodies, aren't they? Because they are, I think at first you felt like they were more human. I guess I felt like they were more human than it was more synthetic, I guess, towards a human body, but it does feel extremely mechanical, and it's starting to make me wonder if is this really the sister, or is this the brain patterns of the sister? Uh, you know, I don't know if any of you are old comic book readers, but that was the argument back in the 70s when the Vision was created with the brainwaves of the dead Wonder Man, Simon Williams, and then of course Wonder Man came back. So there was this uh, and then, of course, they both fell in love with the Scarlet Witch. So there was this tugging backwards and forwards of who was real, who wasn't real, who was a copy of a copy. So this kind of discussion and this kind of thinking is deeply embedded in the stuff that I've been enjoying for, wow, decades now. Um, it's that whole opening is interesting because we see the different power plays. We see old mate Cavalier coming in and just being impetuous and arrogant, and he's also excited as well. Like by the time he discovers that Wendy can not only hear this language and makes the suggestion that maybe inside, because she's more mechanical than we realize, she can replicate conversation. So he kind of sets her on this path. And it's interesting, there's that moment where her brother, Hermit, tries to stand up for her, and Wendy has a real moment, of like, it's my body, it's my choice, which is um, really, really interesting because she's a kid, so this is like a maturity that's blossoming within her. That's a very adult thing to say, and the force with which she says it to her brother. It's extremely firm, but it's not nasty, but it's definite. And it's also interesting that she says, "This is my body, so this is my choice." Um, I don't know if Cavalier sees it that way. Like Cavalier, you know, it's pointed out that the lung that they've grown and given to Hermit is actually Prodigy's, and uh, yes, you know what? I've forgotten to mention that Adrian Edmondson. I've written it down in my notes every week, and I have to tell you, this is the fourth week of doing this, and I have not written this in my notes, and I finally remembered to mention it. But one of my all-time favorite comedy actors, Vivian in The Young Ones, was just one of my all-time favorite characters. So I've thoroughly enjoyed not only seeing Adrian Edmondson on this, but also so constrained compared to the man who used to stick his head through walls and, used to put nails in his head to try and stop himself from sneezing. Um, what a journey we've had with Adrian Edmondson. Someone on Patreon, I can't think who it was. Anyway, they pointed out, and I thought, damn, I do keep forgetting to mention that. Anyway, uh, he ends up telling Hermit, like, you can leave. Like, we want you to stay and work for us, and we want you to help work out if she is really your sister. And when Hermit is ready to defy this, they kind of point out, well, you can't come back, and you can't do this, and you can't do that, and you'll never see your sister again. And we own your lung, and you can pay it off in installments. Do you know what I mean? And it's like such a gross corporation thing to do. So while Wendy is feeling very much that this is my body and this is how I feel, um, is it? I think Prodigy might not look at it that way. That's why it's really interesting when, Nibs, who is quite clearly having a psychotic breakdown. It's interesting watching all the different kids and their reactions to their new bodies. Nibs is turning into a loose cannon, and she's talking about being pregnant, which is biologically impossible from what Sylvia and Arthur have stated, and the fact that uh, that's like she's having ownership of her body as well, and but in a very different way and in a less lucid way. I tell you what, the actress Lily Newmark is doing an incredible job of being quite scary and, uh, obviously not someone you want to spend time with, but also I have real empathy for that character, and she's immensely watchable, which is hard. It's hard to pull off that as a balancing act, So I think she's doing a really good job. Um, Yes, uh so Hermit's kind of put in this weird position. Wendy is trying to uh have a level of autonomy. Um Kirsch, who is still by far my favorite character, he feels like he's making cameos in the story, but when he's making cameos, he's not it's not like he's disengaged with the story. He's just over here watching it from afar, and then he comes into the story when it's time for him to be there. But he's almost like the uh, you know observer of this whole tale who jumps in and acts when he has to. He had my favorite line of the episode where, um, you know, poor God, all this stuff with Morrow and God, what's his name? What's his name? What's his name? I've drawn Arus. That's what we've learned his name is. Um, when he says, "Is this a test?" and Kirsch says, "That's what being an adult is, a constant test," and he is absolutely correct. Um, it's just a lot of testing. Um, so we have all of that going on. We have Sylvia and Arthur. They are, they're kind of struggling with what to do next. I think they really believe in the hybrid way forward and are worried about the way that this is being jeopardized with this new interest that Boy Cavalier can get into. Um, you know, uh, it's it's funny that uh, Dame is like uh, trying to play the middle ground, trying to kind of keep things level. And it's Arthur's really beginning to struggle with it. He's understanding the ramifications, not just of it psychically, but also, these are really expensive. So why are you sending them off to do to do something that could result in damage as well? So uh, they're quite clearly unsure of um, how to move forward, and so it'll be interesting to see. I fear for both of those characters, to be honest. I fear that at least one of them won't make it to the end of this series. We also learn from Hermit that there were once governments and that did not work. And now there are five corporations that run the world. But what's interesting is that is supposedly to make things better. But as we learned today, the reason that uh, Herman couldn't visit his sister when she was in hospital was he was fighting in a war. So guess what? It turns out corporations taking over everything. People are intrinsically warlike. It is in our DNA. It is in our nature. We always want more than we want. And the idea that there is any peaceful solution moving forward is naive. And once again, there's not. I said at the start of this podcast, not a lot of kind of exciting things happen in this episode, and I've seen some pushback with people saying, "Oh, this is a dud," but the dialogue has lots of information, and there's a lot of interesting things that go into this uh, world, and we're learning more about it. It's becoming more realized as we go further. By the way, you can tell that they filmed it in the same place as the later season of White Lotus. Um, would have been great if Walton Goggins just turned up in the background, still floating in the water. Um, yes, so and we're seeing a lot of Kid Cavalier trying to manipulate Wendy. All of the. And she gets him to do a pinky swear because it's just a good reminder that while she might be growing up in some ways, she's still at heart a kid, even Isaac renaming himself, that's a sense of ownership. That's him uh, realizing probably the power of naming and choosing a name for himself. I like that. So, we're seeing all these different ways that they're playing out. Nibs is believing that she's pregnant. Wendy wants to continue her ability to communicate with these aliens. Isaac's renaming himself. It's interesting. Poor Roos is slightly is like he's having a really bad time, and he has no sense of power. He has no sense of ownership over who he is, and it is devastating to watch this poor character be so racked with fear and panic and guilt, as it were. Um, Before we bring in Jarrod, let's just get down to the ocular alien getting into that goddamn sheep. Like, pretty wild. And like seeing the sheep attacked, I know it's not real, but I never really cope with animal violence, even when I know that it's bollocks. But watching that was harrowing. But then, because we Kirsch has worked out that this alien is pretty smart. Well, we talked about it last week as being like an octopus situation, and the way the sheep just kind of is not just looking at everyone, it was really staring at Kirsch. It's really working out what's going on. And I don't know, if I was Boy Cavalier, I wouldn't be knocking on the window and kind of giving it a bit of, I'm the boss here. The last thing I'd be doing, I'd be like, hey, yeah, 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 Kirsch is the boss. Look at him. I feel more comfortable with that. So um, that was wild. All of that was great. And then, the alien, the tiny little alien bursting out of the lung was we haven't seen that before either. And the way that she can replicate speech and I never kind of, I've never really thought about this before, but I've never, yeah, they're quite, serpenty, aren't they? Like when we see them burst out that first time in Alien, that just it's too busy running off before you can quite clock what it is. So her being able to communicate with it and it looking a little bit like an asp, it'll be interesting to see where this goes. And also, we know those things grow quickly. Man, do they know? They better watch out. That thing might be ready to start to eating and cocooning and trying to create a queen and before they realize it. So anyway, look, a slower episode. I know that there's been some pushback on it for it being a dud. I've seen people say that it was boring. It wasn't any of those things for me. I still found it really interesting. I enjoyed the world building, and I'm looking forward to a new episode that is going up tonight. But before we do that, we are going to bring in Jarrod for a little bit more talk about the series, and then we're going to be exploring a little bit more of the mythology. So let's go and get Jarrod now. I have my mate Jarrod with me, who has been, we've been discussing online the Alien series, not just the TV series, but the run of movies. I just managed to squeeze in, knowing that we were going to have a chat, I managed to squeeze in Alien Resurrection the other night, which I don't reckon I've seen since I saw it at the cinema.
Right.
And, you forget how bizarre this franchise is. Like it's probably you'd say it's probably the franchise with the wildest swings in genre.
Yeah, completely. I mean, especially if you look at Alien to Aliens, the the narrative beats are the same, but the style of movie completely and utterly different. And then yeah, getting into Resurrections is that's a little bit psychotic, that movie, isn't it?
It's weird. It's really weird. I feel like it would make a uh it I think the well, I can't say that I enjoyed it.
Right.
Like it's definitely the least favorite of all the Alien films I've seen. But about halfway through it, because I was finding it a real slog, and I realized, oh, I'm trying to watch this like an Alien film, but I'm better off maybe watching this like it's David Lynch's Dune.
Yeah, or it's more like a slasher film or like House of a Thousand Corpses, that kind of thing. And it's sort of like
Yeah.
each Alien movie sort of takes a different narrative approach to the horror aspect of things. And that one's a bit more like well, here's just a slasher film with a whole bunch of people who you really don't want to like, and you get
Yeah.
to enjoy the fact that they don't make it to the end of the film.
Yes, yeah, yeah. It's quite satisfying. I tell you what, have you seen the footage of Sigourney Weaver hitting that basketball shot in the first go?
Right. Yes. And they're all like, oh my God,
Yeah,
how do you do it?
everyone has to hold because it's like they're all so stunned and they're
Yes.
about to ruin the take. So
Yeah.
cool.
It's
Um,
pretty good.
and it's kind of it's like it's easy to forget that when Alien first came out, it was incredibly progressive to kind of kill off the star in Tom
Right.
Skerritt and have Ripley's character be the one who lives at the end. I read that Ripley was originally intended to be a guy.
Oh, right. Yeah, that probably makes sense actually. And you would expect that the the way that the industry works, they would have probably pushed that for a fair bit. I watched it again in the last couple of nights, again,
Mm,
knowing that we're going to have this conversation. And one of the things that I found really interesting is, in a horror movie, if you're on your own, you're stuffed. Like you are dead, and they turn that on its head with the last two deaths,
yeah,
because as they go down to look for, I think it was the fuel for the cryo sleep, the
yeah.
two who went off together, they're the ones who actually ended up dying. And so that whole movie is about turning those perspectives on the head, including, I guess, the themes of the way that the aliens attack the humans as well is we can probably get into that a bit further, but the way it's sort of taking the idea of the aggressor, and if you look at the face hugger, for instance, while it's got the ovipositor that goes down the throat,
Mm,
which is very phallic, the rest of that device is actually, it looks like a vagina, right?
yes.
So it's got this thing that's coming at your face and going to attach to your face, and it's the way that it's going to violate you. I always find it really interesting as well, actually. A lot of people who are very disturbed by that face hugger, I'm thinking maybe they're more disturbed by the idea of having female genitalia so close to their face more than the idea of being violated. It might say a bit more about some people than they wish to reveal.
I like the idea that if one of your female friends was interested in dating one of your male friends, or one of your female friends, and they said the most horrifying thing in the world is the face hugger, you'd say, "Look, they're nice to date, but maybe it's not going to be too exciting." And
Yeah, exactly.
that whole film it's funny, isn't it? Because how old were you when you first saw Alien?
Yeah, so this is a good question, and so it's released in '79. I
Yeah.
was born in '79, and my parents used to frequent a drive-in. And so I was
Oh,
taken as
yeah.
a baby to a drive. I thought when I first heard that story that it was a cinema, and I was like, how are you having a baby? Like that's the quickest way to have everybody hate you, other than being on a plane with a baby, being in a cinema. But it was a drive-in. So yeah, I was taken to that movie before a year of age, and I can remember watching it as a toddler. There was a weird approach to things like this in my house where violent movies were not off the cards, but anything with any kind of sexual connotations were. And it's like
Oh,
clearly they didn't get the underlying tone in this movie because they still let me watch that one when I was a little kid. And I did see Aliens at the cinema, and I would have been 7 or 8 at that
yeah,
point in
right.
time.
Yeah.
So, that's what it's like when you grow up with parents who were born in the 50s and had you in the 70s, I guess. The idea of what is or is not appropriate is a little bit different than we have now.
It was oh, absolutely. Like I far out. I was trying to talk a friend into taking their 7-year-old to see Superman.
Right.
Is it appropriate? I said, "Yes, mate.
Yeah,
It's
that one,
Superman.
yes. Come on.
He
That's
takes
the whole point of that movie. It's
he
bringing
takes a
back the kids,
squirrel.
right? Yeah.
It's going to be fine. He
Yeah.
he stops a dog from being squished. Like this is, but I just have to the kids of today are making me feel like an old man because I'm
Right.
suddenly finding myself going, these soft ass kids not being able to cope with Superman. But yeah, Alien is. I was lucky. I had a mum who she was happy for me to pretty much watch anything, but she preferred that she watched it with me, so then she could explain things and stuff like that. And that first Alien film, the first time you see it, it's by the way, kudos to your mum just having had you not that long ago and then seeing
Yeah.
Alien.
Yeah.
It's overwhelming. Like everything that's going on in that film is it's almost you're trying to keep up with what's
Right.
happening. And then as you get older, yes, the face hugger, even the cockpits that they sleep in is kind of like
Yeah.
the blossoming of the
Yeah.
vagina and everyone becoming alive again. And the fact that the ship is called Mother, but
Yeah.
Mother's a bad mother. uh,
Right.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely.
Motherfucker.
Well, certainly dispassionate, right? And
Yeah.
we might get into that a little bit with Kid Cavalier because he's made this offhanded comment within the last couple of episodes about, the people in your life who think they know better than you. And he says something like, and especially mothers, which is like, okay, we're starting to get a bit more fleshed out into Kid Cavalier's psyche and what drives him and what his attitudes are.
Yes, yeah, yeah, really good point. But yeah, that whole as you get older, you kind of go, oh yeah, the face hugger, that's full on. It's like a nasty penis coming out of the stomach. The
Right.
fact that Ash kind of spits up what looks like jizz,
Right.
and then he tries to strangle Ripley with
Ripley with
rolled
the
up
porn
porn
magazine.
magazine. Like
Right.
the imagery is
Yeah. It
it's
gets a little, yeah, it's like, okay, Ridley Scott's really trying to drive this home at some point. It's like, yeah, that's pretty
but
impractical, but okay, sure,
yeah, but
let's
it's
go with
also
it.
one of those things I think when you notice it, you go, oh man, he's really pushing this, but so many people don't notice it.
Right. Well, it's sort of interesting because that particular scene definitely stands out in my mind because as a kid, when I was rewatching this movie, that was like you can see in the background, like they've got all the photos from that magazine that they stuck up on the wall
Yeah,
as well. So
yeah.
like that gets burned in your brain. You're like, why is this particular scene hanging around so much in my mind? It is a really interesting take on that whole sexual violence, and I don't know whether it's ahead of its time or whether it was just coincidental, but like the my reading of that movie is very much about what we now recognize as rape culture, and that is
Hmm.
that the idea that for some people it's excusable to have this kind of level of violence towards women and the
Hmm.
day-to-day experiences that women have. That's actually what
Hmm.
this would look like for you if you were, up there facing an alien that attacks, reproduces, and feeds in this particular manner.
Hmm.
Um, I tend to think of it as being ahead of its time, as in trying to put those themes down. I mean, horror's been a bit like that, right? It's always been, well, let's talk about something that there's this innate fear around,
Yeah.
and this is a particular high-end area of horror. So I think it's probably what they were trying to aim for, right?
Yeah, I
At
think
least I hope
so
so.
too. Well, a friend of mine who is the GM for Women in Media, she in women's studies in university studied Alien
Yeah,
and all of those themes and the way it's pushed forward. And once again, it's done in a pretty like it's funny to say, but it is in your face and also subtle because so many people don't notice this. They just
right.
see it as an alien film. And I think that's a success. You can enjoy it one way, and if there's something else there for you to find, then that's great as well. Let's jump into Alien Earth. I tried not to do too much reading going into this
Yeah,
series, so
same.
I've been a little bit uncertain if this has been a like Fargo and Legion to a certain extent, a remix of these ideas
Yeah.
adjacent to the storylines. But it does seem like this is set in the chronological timeline of the movie.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think that there's enough leeway. First of all, we have to understand, like, any comments we make here is just our interpretations of it, right?
Yeah,
But
yeah,
even then, there's inconsistencies between the movies and the TV show.
yes.
You have to allow for that. And you can just read that as being, well, it's just a bad narrator, right? The person
Hmm.
within the story, that's their recollections of what
Yeah,
happened. But maybe it's not the same. But I think so far there's been no real move away from the core logic behind the way the aliens work or the internal logic behind the way people act around them. I'm very interested in some of the ways that the things we know about the ovomorphs and the xenomorphs, the way they behave, and how that will give us some narrative cues within this. But I'm the same. I've tried not to read too far ahead. I've caught a couple of the previews for different episodes, but I'm
yeah,
trying to stay away from it as much as possible because I want to enjoy this one as like, oh, something new I didn't think about.
yeah,
That's great.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's interesting. You've got some thoughts on our leader in Boyd
Yes.
here, who,
So Kid
by the way,
Cutler is
great performance by the
yeah.
actor. He's doing such a great job.
Yes, because it's like Joffrey in Game of Thrones. Like
Yeah,
if you hate the actor, I've
yeah,
done such a great job, right? And
yeah,
that's where he's heading. Um, he's coming across so far as being overly arrogant and perhaps a little blasé and like sloppy almost. But I think that's a red herring. I'm pretty confident. So some of the backstory that I have read about is that he started his company when he was like 6 years of age or something like that. So
right.
he's a true child prodigy, right? Like
Yeah,
actually smart at that period of age, as opposed to some of the billionaire oligarchs that we have now who smart, yes,
mm,
but they got to where they are because somebody else said, "Here's $1 billion, go do
mm,
something with that," right?
mm,
But I think the idea that, say, Kirsch seems to be looking at him like, "Why are you acting like such a dickhead all the time?" Or, why are you allowing these $1 billion hybrid synths to go out and do things that are going to be dangerous? Because we're
mm,
going to lose these devices that cost us so much money and so much time and research. My opinion around this is that the Lost Boys, he doesn't actually give a shit about them at all. He's
Mm.
interested in what their experiences are going to be because I'm going to go into that body. I'm going to become a
Yes.
hybrid at some point.
Yeah.
That's the whole reason I'm doing it. And that's the theme for Wayland. That's the theme for a couple of the different people who've been in these movies as well, both within this franchise and I guess in Ridley Scott's other franchises with, say, Blade Runner, for instance. It's about
Mm.
that longevity, finding your God, finding immortality. And that's surely what he's going after. But I think that we're eventually going to see that he's set things up, not specifically to this storyline, but in his life, so that he's got as much information about everything as possible. And he's always a step ahead of everybody else. We'll
Mm.
probably see that when he starts to negotiate with Yutani
Mm.
coming up. And I'm pretty sure that he might. So let me say what I think is going to happen with him. I'm confident that he's got a body ready to go, and
Mm.
that he's just making sure that the Lost Boys don't become psychotic, for instance, thinking they're pregnant,
Yeah.
or very fragile and easily broken, or that their intellect gets stunted by
Mm.
the hardware that they're in. And then as soon as that's all proven, great, I'm going off into here. But maybe we're going to see a scenario like we saw in Prometheus, where you've got somebody who has been implanted and we need to do something right the fuck now, otherwise I'm dead. And
Mm.
if he's got the materials and the equipment set up to do that mind transfer, what if the only synth that's close by is Kirsch?
Oh no.
You know what? I'm
Yeah.
taking your body, Kirsch. Get the fuck out. I'm in there now. And
Yeah.
so I would love to see that kind of narrative come up. But I'm confident that he's ready to go into a body. He's just got to
Mm.
be put in that stress situation where he's got to choose, your favorite character, for instance,
Mm.
and sacrifice his personality.
There's something, he's, what's his name? Is it Ace? Not Ace. Adam.
Adam?
Adam is,
Yeah,
wanting to keep Hermit around because because they're not sure because Wendy and all the Lost Boys might be, they might just be copies. So who believe that they're real,
right.
and he could transfer himself over, but he might actually die, and then this new thing will think that it's him. So
Yes.
that feels like it really fits in. And it's also, I talked earlier before I brought you in about there's interesting senses of autonomy that are developing. Wendy very nicely tells her brother to kind of back off a little bit when she says, this is my body and it's my choice.
Yep.
Poor Nibs is quite clearly going insane
Yes.
and believing that she's pregnant, which also continues all these themes in Alien, but also is a sense of ownership and being in control. And then something as simple as uh, Isaac. Naming himself Isaac,
Yeah.
that's a sense of autonomy as well. So I think that's something that they all have to keep an eye on because, as you said, if he's going to jump into this body and it's not actually him, then maybe he'll start, Boy Cavalier might decide he wants to be, Gary.
Yes, yeah, exactly. What if everything changes when you're in the new body? And this is a great existential discussion.
Yeah.
I really like that direction as well. Like it's one of the true horror aspects of this show is what really happened to those kids. Like their
Mm,
their intellect is transferred across. Great.
mm,
Were they dead when that
mm,
happened, or were they still alive? And then they're just
mm.
like, well, we don't need this body with the still existing intellect in there anymore. We've made a copy of you,
Yeah.
but you're still a person. Get the fuck out in a body bag, off you go. Like, so that's a truly horrific thought that could be going on here.
Yes. Yeah.
One of the other aspects that I quite liked, so my background in health picks up on some of the cues that they talk about. And so when Dame was talking to Wendy about what the experience in this body is like, you don't have the neurotransmitters and the hormones that will help you understand what it's like to go from a child to an adult. And it's like, okay, that is either a throwaway comment or it's going
Mm,
to come up really importantly. And if you look at Nibs, for instance, that's part of the experience that you would have is when you go through trauma, there are biological responses that their bodies are not able to provide them with. And so
yeah.
their ability to cope with, for instance, that tiga ocularis coming to her face,
Mm,
that's such a trauma for her. And she's got no innate ability of her biology to help her deal with that. And so
mm.
it's really interesting to get these discussions around what their bodies are actually capable of. And I love the fact that the show is not just saying, oh, it's a synth, whatever. It doesn't really matter what the morals around this are or what the experience for this character is going to be. It's actually looking at it and saying, here's some real, theoretically possible outcomes that could occur if we
Mm.
had this actual body, this piece of technology that was available to us. It's interesting that they're going into that much depth with it.
Yeah, like I hadn't really. That's a great point. I hadn't really thought about the fact that you'd have sort of like hormones and amino acids flashing through you
Right.
and helping your brain kind of find an equilibrium. And she just doesn't have any of that. And
No.
um, she is correct to be freaked out by that.
Yes.
Well, that thing is, that alien is. I just think it's been a stroke of genius introducing these
Yeah.
other types. Did you think it? I didn't think this, but I could be wrong. Are they all from the same planet, or
Yeah, it's a good question, right?
yeah, or have they
So
been picked up from different places?
I have a feeling. So if you look at the timeline, you mentioned earlier that this seems to be within the world that's already existed within the movies.
Hmm.
This is occurring a couple of years before the Nostromo gets
Yep.
redirected. And
Yep.
so it's probable that they've been out looking around, going to different worlds and picking up things. But I would suggest that they must have come from the one environment. And the only reason I would say that is because look at our world, right? There are billions of different life forms.
Hmm.
If they've been to multiple planets and they've only really taken one or two from each world, maybe it's because this is the one that could be an industrial application or a weapons
Oh
application.
yeah. Yep.
But maybe it's just they went to one world. And if they're all from the one world, you've got to look at these creatures and say these have existed in a world where a xenomorph exists as well. So
Hmm.
they are formidable,
Yeah.
or they're just worthless to the xenomorph. The xenomorph doesn't look at them like, say, Morrow.
Hmm.
This particular creature I can't gestate within. It's too
Hmm.
small. It doesn't have the right biology, so therefore it can live. Whatever. I don't
Yeah.
care.
Yeah. Who gives a
Um,
shit?
and maybe that's the reason Morrow got left over. We should talk about that as well. But
Hmm.
these creatures, I think, and they've demonstrated it, right? They are fucking scary. And the Teocularum is like take Xenomorph, creepy, creepy creature, and then
Hmm.
say, well, what's more creepy than that? Well, how about an eyeball that implants itself into your body and controls your body while it's there? That's just the extra level of creepiness that, is just amazing.
That's wild. And also the fact that uh it's really smart. Like
Yeah,
it's like an octopus. It's got
right,
so much more going on. And the way that like if someone had said to you at the start of the year, you're gonna get creeped out by the way a sheep looks at someone, you'd be like, what?
right.
It's terrifying. And I'm fascinated because it's the way it looks at Kirsch and then, boy, go,
Me,
me.
yeah,
And it's
me,
like, oh, I don't know if you should be doing that, mate. Like, I
right.
would not be drawing that thing's attention. And also seeing from from that alien's perspective as well is
Yes.
pretty wild.
And so if I get back to the idea that Boy Cavalier has already set himself up a body, for instance,
Hmm.
I think one of the cues we're going to get to see if he's actually done that in the story is if the ovomorphs no longer open up for him. But
Mm,
the real risk for him still is that Teocularum because it's already shown with nibs. I don't give a fuck. If you're synthetic, I reckon I can control you. I'm going to try and
mm,
take out your eyeball anyway. And
mm,
so we might get a narrative where Boy Cavalier does jump over into a synthetic body
mm,
and feels that the xenomorph is no longer an issue, but the Teocularum is the one that might end up undoing him if that's the case. So
mm.
it keeps giving because we've got extra layers of story that can come from that new creature.
Yeah. I just had a thought pop into my head. The original bodies of the Lost Boys, they're definitely dead, aren't they?
Well, that's the thing, right? They showed them zipping up in the bags, and they've had
Yeah.
funerals for them.
Yeah.
So there is that person who keeps wandering around the Neverland. I should call it the Neverland Ranch, right? That gives an extra layer of creepiness to it. So the island and the,
Yeah.
the facility within the island is spraying some kind of cooling agent on the
Yeah.
walls or whatever it is. And that's like, okay, that's one of these Chekhov guns. Like you don't just whack that in there unless something's going. So maybe that's there to preserve the kids. Maybe they're in a storage facility, and they're still around. Or maybe there's other things that have been kept in there, but I'm very interested to see where that goes. But yeah, I am disturbed about that whole idea of what happened with the kids afterwards. And, was the transfer a death? Or was the
Mm,
transfer a copy, and therefore they just
mm,
killed off a otherwise living being? And then that might come back with Boy Cavalier as well. Let's say he does transfer. Well,
mm,
does his still living body say, "Well, I still want to live," and then the
mm.
new one goes, "No, fuck that. You've got to go now. Like you're out, get out," type of thing.
Yeah.
So it's interesting to see where that'll go.
I don't think I would have initially thought of that, but I think the true moment of genius in Alien Resurrection is when she finds all her old bodies,
Yes,
and that is like that that almost makes the rest of the movie worthwhile. That is
right.
so wild.
Yeah, there's no doubt that Sigourney's performance in that movie is probably the standout in it.
Yeah,
And her, like, just a change in the way her character is, far more confident and like, fuck you, I'll kill you too if you get in my way type of approach. But then so she's had that whole arc throughout the whole movie, and then she sees the clones and she's truly horrified by it, which is, humanizing again for that character, which is,
yeah.
it's really good. That movie is a bit weird, and I will note this. It was done by shit, I can't ever think of his name.
The director of Delicatessen.
Yeah, but
I'll always remember it.
it was written by
Joss Whedon.
Joss Whedon.
Mm.
And now at the time, Joss Whedon was still held up as being, look at this guy. He writes such great characters as women. And now we know a little bit more about Joss Whedon's experiences around his cast and things like that. And you think, oh, it's actually a bit more creepy when you think about it, the way he
Yeah.
looks at people. Yeah,
Yeah, never trust a man who wears a t-shirt that says "I am a feminist."
right. Yeah.
You protest too much.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
Um, we should get tomorrow as well.
Yes.
And oh God, I just feel pained with all of these scenes with that poor boy.
Who's manipulating Akash, I think his name is, like slightly. Yeah,
Yeah.
he's really leaning into that. And if you think about him being a child, which he
Mm,
is, and
mm,
if you saw this kind of conversation, you would, like, everybody around it would be alarmed.
mm.
Yet, because his body is older, it doesn't come across quite as creepy, but it's so terrible. I
Yeah.
mean, he's got a means that he's trying to achieve, but it's still everything about it is really terrible. And it shows that he's got one thing that he wants to achieve. He doesn't care. And he's lost clearly a lot in his life. He's mentioned he had a child. So
Yep.
he's had a child and he's willing to treat a child like that. Maybe
Mm,
he doesn't see it as a child because he met them as synths, but
yep.
still, that's what it is. Yeah, I think he must have had something very, very terrible happening in his life because
Yeah.
one, he's lost his family. He's agreed to go on a 65-year trip,
Yeah.
and he's had enough alterations to his body that a xenomorph goes, I can't use you for, depositing eggs in. I don't even bother to kill you. That kind of
Yeah.
approach.
Like one of the best scenes as well, where you really get a sense that there is something otherworldly with Morrow, where it just all he has to do is, be still, just be
Yeah,
still, and it's probably like walking up alongside a bronze statue, and the
right.
Xenomorph is like, and just kind of keeps moving.
Yes.
Um, the manipulation of the young boy is really upsetting, and uh, but also with Morrow's storyline, uh, a really good use of time as a storytelling device. Like you know, it's really easy with numbers to not take them in. It's, they've been away for 65 years. Ah,
Yes.
65. It's a number.
Right.
It always reminds me of the Eddie Izzard routine where he talks about serial killers. We're obsessed with serial killers. They killed six, seven people. Stalin killed hundreds of thousands, and it's like, oh, that's too much. I can't
Right.
quite take that
Can't
in.
contemplate it.
And him suddenly talking to the boss, and that's the granddaughter of the boss, was such a small moment, but
Yes.
informative.
Yes, and they've done that a couple of times throughout. So the first movie with the Maginot Crew, where they're like talking about, oh, it's not three corporations anymore; it's now five. You need to know about these two new
Yes,
ones.
yes,
And a couple of matters like that, where it's like, oh, things have changed. Oh, you've got synths that are children now. That was his response when he
mm,
saw those slightly, and damn it, I can't remember the other fella's name. And he was just like, what is going on with you? And then he realizes they're children, and he's like, okay. I'm interested to see what happens with him if he's shown that they are actually children that have been transplanted into a synth body, and whether
Mm,
that changes his approach, whether he now has compassion, or
mm,
whether his lack of compassion for slightly. I'm already talking shit because he's found the family.
yeah,
He's found the family, and just instead of going, "Oh, I feel sorry for you," it's like,
yeah,
"No, here's another angle that I can
yeah,
fuck you with."
yeah.
Yeah,
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 he is locked into his plan.
yes,
Uh, I'd like a bit more between him and Kirsch as well. Like it's fascinating. Someone said to me, one of my mates said, "Ah, it's a flaw in the storytelling because they said that they can see through their eyes and record stuff, and they don't they don't know what's going on with Morrow." And I was like, "Oh, Kirsch is watching."
yeah, that's right. And I reckon the offhanded comment from Ked Cavalier, just assume that I'm ahead of you on everything.
Hmm.
He's probably doing the same thing to Kirsch and all the Lost Boys, right? We know that they're doing it with the Lost Boys,
Yeah.
but I think he's probably doing that with Kirsch. So one of my questions is, so Slightly is going to have to go after Hermit,
Hmm.
Joe Hermit, because of Morrow. Kirsch knows about this. So Kirsch has a choice. I
Mm,
can step in and save Hermit before he's killed, or I
mm,
can see, we've dissected the face huggers. We
mm.
know what that's, but I want to see how they go from that to this. And
Yeah.
while we've done one in the lung, let's see what happens if you put it in a body. And then when he makes that choice, Kid Cavalier is probably going to step in, reveal to us, the audience, that he's been watching Kirsch's actions, and
Mm,
he'll do something as well. So he might say, well, Kirsch has decided to save Joe. Joe's a bit of a pain in my ass. I'm going to
mm.
step in and stop Kirsch saving Joe. And so you've got this whole circles within circles type of approach to it that could get really interesting. Hopefully they go in that direction because he's capable of doing that kind of storytelling, right?
Yeah,
Doing it
yeah.
effectively without becoming too complex.
Yeah, we could end up with a kind of the good, the bad, and the ugly ending with
Right.
everyone.
Who's the shittiest person in this scenario? All of you. There was one aspect of it that I thought was interesting with the time frame as well. So I rewatched Aliens as well
Hmm.
just recently. And one of the things that they say to her when she wakes up, you've been asleep for 57 years. And
Mm.
um, Paul Reiser in his fantastically
So
sleazy,
good.
sleazy role,
Yeah,
he goes, 57 years is such an unusual amount of hypersleep. And yet this crew,
yeah,
and I want to talk about the crew as well, but this crew have been on a trip that is at least 30 years in one direction hypersleep because they're
yeah,
on a 65-year process, right?
yeah.
And so there's these little bits that are creeping into the storyline where it's like, oh, some things are not exactly the same. One of the things that I do for my headcanon around that is I say, well, in Yutani, that when they've sent out some crews, they're like, oh, we don't normally do hypersleeps for mining crews. But if you're an
Mm.
exploration crew, that's a completely different story and it's all fine.
Mm.
You know,
Could
um,
be, we could probably sort it out that it's maybe 57 years by yourself in one of those little ships
right.
is considered a, overly long time. Normally those
Yes.
ships are found earlier, etc. We should finish up. God, there's so much to talk about here. Is there anything that we haven't touched on yet?
Well, there's one thing I want to touch on real quick because I think the next episode is going to focus on the Maginot. And
Hmm.
so there's a couple of things I want to say. First of all, Mr. Tang, who is their android, is a fucking creep, which is interesting. And maybe we'll see a lot more of that in this section.
Yep.
But one of the other things about it is if you look at the crew just superficially, it's
Hmm.
very similar in feel and look to the Nostromo crew,
Hmm.
even down to the ethnicities of the
Yep.
different individuals who are in there. But one of the things that I think is important that we'll come back to later is the last person that we see the xenomorph kill amongst that crew is the person who is most like Ripley, right?
Yes.
She looks and has that sort of same physicality about her that Ripley does. And it's like,
Yep.
this is the indication, right? Here's your Ripley. By the way, she's fucking dead now already, right? Right
Hmm.
off the bat, we're going to kill her right off. So
Yeah.
this is not Alien. This is not the same story. It's a different story. It's a new one. I think that
Yeah.
was a really good approach to that particular idea that it's going to be the same story again and again and
Yeah.
again.
It was uh, a really good way of drawing you in by giving you lots of things that you recognize and then upending them. I can't think of that actress's name, but she played the sheriff in the last season of Fargo, and she was fantastic in that as well. So when she turned up in this, and directors use their
Yeah,
favorite
they like
actors,
to.
I was like, oh, great, I can't get. Oh, she's gone. It was
Yeah.
like a real surprise when she
Well, it's like David Hurd,
taken
right?
out.
It's like, oh, here's the big name. Kill
Yeah,
him straight away.
straight away.
Um, there was a couple of quick things I wanted to just throw in there. One is I
Oh, hang
see.
on. These we discussed earlier.
Yes.
These are your face hugger bits as
Yeah, instead of
a
squid
squid
bits, the
bits.
face hugger bits.
Yeah.
There's a couple of there's two pieces that I might throw out there as future
Mhm.
discussion points that the audience might come back on. There's a lot of discussion online about David inventing the xenomorphs, and the thing that I would say about that is no, he didn't, because the virus, the black goo, that was the thing that creates the xenomorphs. He just happened to apply it to humans in what we
Mm,
think might have been the first case, but now we know. That xenomorphs are already able to do this to humans. It doesn't need David's involvement. The other
mm,
one is that the xenomorphs, so within the storyline, why did the xenomorphs choose Wendy to talk to? I don't think that's true at all. I think Wendy just happens to have the hearing range where she can pick it up. But
mm,
I do think that her interaction with that xenomorph that hatched just now is going to alter the way the xenomorph grows. So I don't have anything to back this up by, but if they're insectoid, different hatchlings will take on the characteristics that are needed for the growth and survival of the hive, right? And so
mm,
the first ones will just be, I'm going to kill everything and then try and create some eggs. But eventually you're going to have one that becomes a queen. And if Wendy is talking to this new one like it's a parent, maybe this one doesn't take on the characteristics of a queen. Maybe it's
mm,
supposed to and it doesn't because Wendy's going to alter that in some way. I don't. I think that would be hard to get across narratively because
mm,
how do the people in the story know that the queen is even a thing? But
mm.
it's sort of an interesting direction. But I do want to get to those uh, the face hugger bits, as we call them. So I've already spoken about one. That is that Boy Cavalier was 6 when he created that.
Yep.
The other one is the choice of the name of his country. So New Siam.
Hmm.
So Siam is the old name that people used to use for Thailand,
Yep.
and the people of Thailand didn't use that name for themselves. It was very much a name that was applied to them by all the other colonial powers in around Thailand. So Thailand was never conquered. And France and England and America, this is Siam, the King of Siam, all that kind of stuff. I think the use of the name New Siam is sort of a way of saying, oh, we've totally conquered, as these corporations, we've totally conquered all the old worlds, and to show that we're gonna force you back into naming conventions that you've discarded because you didn't like
Mm,
that they weren't appropriate. So it's sort of again that sort of violation approach that comes across in this show a little bit. The last two, Adam Irons is played by Adrian Edmondson,
yeah. So
which
I
we
just
pointed out.
finally, I've been writing this. I said earlier in this podcast, I put that in my notes every week, and I kept forgetting to get to it.
Right.
And then I didn't put in my notes this week, and I remembered to mention it finally. Like, and
Yes.
Adrian Edmondson's Vivian is one of the all-time important comedy characters of mine.
Yeah. And I would just love to see something like so Alan on Patreon pointed that out, and I think that's a
Yes, it
really
was
great
Alan.
point.
Yes, yes.
Yes. And it'd be great to see if something happens, like some reflection that puts like stars across his forehead. It would just be like chef's kiss, right? The
Maybe
last part is
I'd like to see him. He just pushes his head through a wall to get away
right.
from the xenomorph or
Yes.
something. Yeah.
And the last part is that there's a lot of discussion about Tyrell Corporation, which is from Blade Runner, which is
Mm,
Ridley Scott's world as well. And there's a bit of, is it the same world? Is it not the same world? And I'd love if there was something within this series that gave us a little hint towards Tyrell Corporation. That's very similar themes, very similar type of tech.
mm.
And it would just be the kind of thing where the real nerdy people like myself who are really into aliens and Blade Runner, we're like, yes, great. We've now got an official linking rather than the stuff that comes in the Blu-ray extras and the
Yeah.
inserts and stuff like that. So
Mate,
anyway,
I would be completely up for that. And then also, I was just showing. I caught up with Richard Fidel last night, and I was showing him he was discussing when he saw Predator at the cinema,
right.
but he's never watched anything else. And I was saying that Prey is worthwhile watching, and
Oh
then
yeah,
I said the new one looks good too, and he said, "Oh, okay." And then I showed him the trailer with the new one with Elle Fanning, and he was
right.
like, if we end up with a little corner of the universe which is good Predator movies, good Aliens, and Blade Runner is somehow all intermixed into one thing,
Yep.
I'm pretty comfortable with that world.
Yes, so am I. I think that would be fantastic. And I love a good integration of multiple properties if it's done well, as
Yes.
opposed to, hey, you're going to hammer this shit in there and make it not make any sense. So if they can do it well, then I'd be very happy. Even if it's not too on the nose, it's just little hints, so a lot of people say, well, replicants are not the same as Androids. Each company's got their own version, right? Like
Yeah.
Apple computers and IBMs are not the same thing, so
Yeah.
for people who are old enough to remember that competition back in the day.
But it is I do like the idea of having replicants over here doing their thing and
Yep.
their issues and all the things that they're dealing with, and we've got everything over here. No, I
Yes.
love all of that. And we keep talking about body autonomy, etc. And we've probably seen the future for where healthcare is going, in that Prodigy owns Hermit's lung and he has to pay
Right.
it off. And I went,
Yeah.
wow.
Yes. Yeah, that's probably not that far away, actually. There's
No.
there's the ethics around that kind of discussion are happening now, but the
Yeah.
capacity to deliver on it. And so, yeah, it'll be interesting to see where we go with that. And that's what good pop culture is about. Let's have these discussions in a way where you don't realize you're having the discussion until you go, oh, they made
Yeah.
a really good point there, right? Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Something that entertains, and then 3 days later, you're like, wow, I'm still thinking
Yeah.
about
Why
that.
am I still thinking about that?
Yeah,
Yeah, definitely.
that is the sweet spot for me as well. Jared, thank you so much for coming on to the podcast, and I would love it if when this series ends, we get back together and we sum up everything that we've seen,
Yep, that'd be
experienced,
fantastic.
and let's see if this boy Cavalier ends up in the body of man Cavalier, and
Right.
how that may or may not play out.
That'd be fantastic. Yeah. I'm hoping that some of these things are right and some of them are completely like off the ball and we get new things like, oh wow, that didn't even think about that. It's
Oh
great.
yeah.
That's what we
Well,
want.
that's the best part of speculating.
Yep.
It's you're either, oh, I got it, or oh no, I was totally off, and this
Yep.
is even better.
Both are good.
Both are good. All right, thanks, mate.
Thanks again.
Thank you to Jared for joining me today to sum up where we're at with Alien Earth. We're definitely at the halfway mark now, and can't wait to not only finish this series, but also see if some of these ideas of Jared's come to fruition. I like the idea that Cavalier has a body waiting for him. That will be interesting. I kind of felt like that's where he was going with the technology, but I didn't contemplate that he might have the body ready to go. So it'll be interesting to see how this plays out, and then we'll have Jared back, and we will see what we nailed and see what completely took us by surprise. Uh, just a quick reminder that everyone in Brisbane, I have a show coming up in December at Good Chat. It is called Gen X Marks the Spot, and it's my first show in Brisbane in a decade. If you would like to come along, since September is my birthday month, my birthday present to you is there's a nice cheap ticket price for all of September. So you can either go to Good Chat, or if you don't know that site, go to my website, justinhamilton.com.au, go to the gigs page, and you will find links to help you out there. And then the Rhino Room on September 19, I'll be appearing with Mickey D and Truckers for Christ, and we'll be putting on a show helping to continue to celebrate the 25 years of Adelaide comedy. There's other things that you might like to check out. My Substack is rolling along, and there's a couple of different things that I'm writing there. There's the Dispatches from the Fury Road blog, which you may have originally read on my site, but I have a new memoir that I'm writing, One Foot in the Spotlight, which you can access through that site. And then, of course, if you would like bonus podcasts, if you'd like to have access to live shows that I've filmed, if you'd like to be able to have access to tickets to live shows that I produce, uh, over at Patreon, you can sign up there, find a tier that suits you. And yes, actually, while I think of it, if you're a Patreon subscriber, DM me if you want to come to the Brisbane show or you want to come to the Adelaide show. You have to DM me there, or I won't know. But if I know, I'll put you on the door. So they're some of the bonuses that you get there. If you would like to access any of them, once again, justinhamilton.com.au. They'll give you all the links to everything that's coming up in the next few months. All right, let's get going. Good chat. Enjoyed hanging out with you and thought Jarrod was fantastic. So looking forward to chatting with him again soon. I hope you're well and until then.